dance with you out by the dumpster. So,
if I had a nickel.
but anyway, yeah, I've reconnected with several of them. And I remember about half of the names just from looking at the pictures. The Cub Scouts, first grade, teacher comes around, passes out the form. I took the form home. My father signed it. My father signed it, I took it back. And a few days later, he gets a call from the scoutmaster and says, Dr. Hereford, your son can't join the Cub Scouts, and I need you to explain to him why. And my dad said, I don't think I can explain that. Well, my dad said, I'll bring him to your office anytime you want, and you can explain it to him. And he didn't take my dad up on the offer. Instead, they disbanded the Cub Scouts. That's what that was. I kid you not. They disbanded the Cub Scouts. Now, I have some friends who are a little bit younger who also came through Fifth Avenue, and they were members of the Cub Scout. So I know that they reconstituted them at some point. I have no idea when, but I never was a Cub Scout or a Boy Scout, you know. But I wanted to join in first grade, and some of my friends were going to join too, you know. And there I am in second grade, and I have a little funny story about this picture, and I'll show it later. And I'm sure you know the guy on the right. Do you know that guy on the left? I bet Kathy knows who he is. I bet Beth knows who he is. Father Theodore Hereford, who was president of the University of Notre Dame for 35 years, passed away a few years ago. But when I was a junior in high school, 1974, the end of the school year, I was president-elect of the student body, and 74 was the 20th anniversary of Brown versus Ford. My father and I were invited to New York City to participate in the NAACP celebration, and I was on the Today Show, and I was asked, where do you want to go to college? And I said, Notre Dame, and a couple of weeks later, I got a letter from the president of the university inviting me to apply to Notre Dame. And so I felt like the skids were adequately greased, so I didn't even apply anyplace else. You know, I got in, and you know, loved it there the whole time. But Father Ted was a fierce supporter of civil rights and human rights, and I learned a lot about that more recently than when I was in school there. All of the wonderful things that he's done. In fact, I got to go up and do a presentation at Notre Dame 2 summers ago and talk about some of Father Ted's work. Now that's the historical marker. That if you're going east on Governor's Drive, right before you get to Gallatin, it's right there on your right. But it talks about, and by the way, that's not where it was in this picture. This is where it was initially put up, and then they moved it when they did some construction and built that overwalk, whatever you call it, over Gallatin. They had to move that, so now it's on the north side of the Spiny Neuro Center building. But I won't read it, but it goes through all of the 4 of us who were the students and the schools that we went to, schools that we integrated. Okay, that's at 5 more minutes, so I'll move it along. Okay, that's the ceremony where they dedicated that marker. My mom and dad, and the lady behind my dad is Dr. Ann Roy Moore, who was the superintendent of the Huntsville City Schools back at that time. 2005 was when the marker was put. Where we are at that ceremony, I keep that picture because I like those sunglasses. There's I'm my dad's couch in the living room. Barack Obama. Sometimes the kids will ask me, they say, did Barack Obama help you to get into school? And I have to explain, I'm older than Barack Obama is, so no, really not. But Dr. Ann Roy Moore had said something about standing on the shoulders of those who came before. And I've heard Barack Obama say some similar things. I've got to fly. Okay, y'all know the guy in the middle. Do you know the guy over on the right? John Lewis. And this is Selma. It's John Lewis at Selma. He was the youngest speaker at the March on Washington. And until recently, I could say he was the only surviving speaker. But he was the longest surviving speaker from the March on Washington. But in 2013, there was a March on Washington Film Festival, and I was invited to DC to be on a panel discussion with him about race relations then and now. So, 3 more minutes, I promise. Okay. So, very proud moment because I just made a point about Antonin Scalia in the Supreme Court weakening voting rights. And this is John Lewis telling the audience and me that he had been in California the week before this, and he had tried to make that same point, but hadn't made it as well as I did. So I'm very proud of that. Okay. And that's my father holding up my picture in the 2nd grade. He and I reenacted the walk in 2013 and had some media there. And he's holding, but a gentleman handed him that paper picture, and the gentleman probably didn't know that it was 2nd grade and not 1st grade, but that's okay. But the way my dad's holding it, the only face you can't see is mine. And because I'm being rushed, this is the consent decree. You know, we had some things here in town about rezoning and closing schools and building new schools. And the consent decree that was signed in 2015 still goes back to my court case in 1963. And that's why my name's on the upper left of that consent decree. Seeds of Freedom. I recommend that.